Who is here. My name is Lindy Wezulu. I've been given the responsibility to program direct today, but it's not fair, guys. I should be program directing with a co-program director. It's not right to program alone. There's two very important countries here, South Africa, Russia, and Russia should have given us someone to program direct with. But anyway, having said that, I wish to welcome everybody to this very, very important event. Nosizwe, Skolka Let, Skolka Zim. This should have happened a long time ago, but we are not going to go there, Ambassador. It's happening now, and that is what I think is important. In the salutations is Comrade Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Comrade Gwen Ramukhopa. I think everybody knows her, but I would request TG just for you to stand up and face that way so that they can all see you. Amanda, yes. Forever. And then we have in our midst the former national chairperson of the ANC and former deputy president of the Republic of South Africa, Comrade Sisbalega Mbete. Your Excellencies, and in particular our co-host this evening, His Excellency Ramov Ambarov, Ambassador of the Russian Federation of the Republic of South Africa. Извините мне, пожалуйста, чтобы они все тебя видели, if you can just stand up for them to see you. We are also supposed to have Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War veterans, Comrade Snuki Zigalala. I didn't see him. Maybe he's still coming, but the other Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War veterans, and in particular Comrade Dan Hato, but I'd also ask the other cadres to stand up. Can we have Comrade Hato, Dan Hato standing up first? Can I also have other Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War veterans also showing their faces, please? Yes, they are there. Comrade Convener of Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War veterans, I've already addressed you. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, comrades and friends, a very good evening to you. For those who are not privileged like me, those others will understand, I will say Dobry Večer. Dobry Večer. Spasiba. Good evening to everyone who is here. My name is Lindy Wezulu. I'm a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress, a member of the Subcommittee on International Relations, which is led by our DSG number 2, Comrade Nomvula Munkonyane, who sends her regards, but the apology because she is in Tanzania. She has had to go and join Chama Chama Pinduzi, our sister liberation movement, in the preparations for the elections upcoming. I am your program director for this evening and have singular honor of welcoming all to Chief Luthuli House. And Comrade Treasurer General, thank you very much for being here. Comrade former National Chairperson, Your Excellencies, comrades and friends. It is an honor to welcome you all at this exhibition, a powerful reflection of the enduring solidarity between two peoples of Russia and South Africa. This evening is very personal for me, as I have a personal relationship with Russia and had the honor of studying and training in Russia many years ago. I am a proud holder of a master's degree from the University of Patrice Lumumba People's Friendship University. And in our midst, I'm not the only benefit or beneficiary. I'm not the only one who came back with one degree or the other. I have quite a number of the comrades that I'm seeing here. If they can just raise their hands, all the students who went to the Soviet Union to different places. There's one that side. I haven't seen him in many years. There's many this side, there's others this side. And I must indicate to you all that it is, for me, very unfortunate that many of these cadres who are raising their hands here today are hidden somewhere. We don't talk about them for one reason or the other. We have lawyers in our midst, we have historians in our midst, we have engineers in our midst, we have oil engineers in our midst who went to Baku and many other places, but that's a history that we are correcting now. That's the reason why we are here today, because the people of South Africa need to know of the support that we had from the Soviet Union at the time, and the opportunity for many of us to go and get an education which we could have never, ever dreamt of at the time. For those of us who went there to study, and I must put this on record, Ambassador, because many a times when we say we are students of a university that existed, that still exists today, everybody lumps us, deliberately so, into like, no, you just went to Russia to go and do military training. That time, the Soviet Union offered us all aspects of training that was necessary and needed for us to continue the struggle. We had those comrades who went there for their military training, who came straight from Angola, straight from Tanzania, straight from Lusaka, and they went specifically to go and do their military training. And it would be interesting for the people of South Africa to get to know what kind of training was that, because those comrades have not been given an opportunity to even explain what it is to be in a cold at minus 25 degrees and have to do your military training as military training it is. What it is to have been a student living in Miklucha Maklaya, living on a street called Miklucha Maklaya, close to the university, and having to be told as a student that the degree of temperatures today is minus 25 degrees, so all foreign students must stay indoors because we don't want to find them covered by the snow outside. Sisbalega, that's a history that still needs to be told. And why it has not been told all along, it's something else, but we are here now. And Ambassador, thank you very much for also being here to give us that opportunity to tell that history. Today, as we gather under the roof of Chief Albert Luthuli House, we are reminded that our liberation struggle was not fought in isolation. It was a collective and global effort, one in which the Soviet Union stood firmly on the side of justice, freedom, and dismantling of apartheid. This exhibition, Solidarity in Struggle Against Apartheid, is far more than a display of historical archives. It is a display of history that needs to be shared with the past, the present, and the future generations to come. It is an act of remembrance and reaffirmation of shared values that transcend geography and time. Through the meticulous work of the Russian State University for the Humanities and in collaboration with African scholars, we are given rare access to archives, images, and testimonies that tell the story of courage, sacrifice, and internationalism. These exhibits remind us of the weapons of solidarity that were forged in Moscow, Maputo, Dar es Salaam, Harare, and indeed in Johannesburg. For the African National Congress, the glorious movement called the African National Congress, the bonds between our movement and the Soviet people remain a cornerstone of our international relations. They are rooted in a moral and political conviction that justice anywhere is a threat to justice to everyone. As the world evolves towards multipolar order, we must continue to draw lessons from the era of principled cooperation to build a future anchored in sovereign equity, peace, and development. And therefore, this exhibition stands as both a historical bridge and a living classroom. And I'm hoping that the classroom should not be a classroom for those who participated, but a classroom for the generations who did not participate, but who are benefits of that struggle. It challenges the younger generations of Africans and Russians to engage with history not as distant memory, but as a living guide for the struggle of today against neocolonialism, inequality, and the distortion of the truth. May I dare say, the challenges of today, which are global challenges. We have America today looking at us in a very different way. And by the way, it's not the first time America is looking at us the way it is today, just that sometimes we forget very easily about those things. Let us therefore celebrate this collaboration not as nostalgia, but as a reward, renewed commitment to shared progress and a just global order. Chairperson TG, today I was engaged in a discussion that was looking at SADC as a region and the opportunities and possibilities of SADC as a region, and many of the young people who were there shockingly said, we know you liberated us, we know you freed us, you know we fought for our liberation struggle, but let's tell you guys, said guys, let us tell you guys, it's about today. If you don't respond to our challenges today as young people, you are a waste to us. And we, as the older generation, must also wake up to the reality that this is what the young people are saying today. They're not saying they don't respect our contribution and our being part of the liberation struggle and liberating our countries, but they are saying today needs you to respond to today's challenges. Now, I would like to ask Comrade Treasurer General well, there's supposed to be to invite for a pre-recorded message from the Professor Vera Zabotnica. I don't know if that's possible for us to see that now, according to the program. Professor Zabotkina is a professor, vice-chancellor of the Russian State University of Humanities. Over to you. Spasiba.
Your Excellency, Mr. Ambarov, dear comrades from African National Congress, distinguished guests, colleagues, friends, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you today on behalf of the academic community of the Russian State University for the Humanities. The opening of the exhibition, Solidarity in Struggle Against Colonialism and Apartheid, is part of a greater project supported by the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of Russian Federation in collaboration with the African National Congress, Robben Island Museum, and the Friends of Cuba Society. The problem of liberation struggle history on the African continent is high on the priority list of both research community and of the actors of international public policy of the Russian Federation at large. And this problem includes two aspects. First, the history of colonialism. And I must say that for many years, it was hindering the economic growth and civilizational sovereignty of African countries. The second aspect is the liberation struggle in African countries, and which is an important factor in the elimination of colonialism. In this struggle, the decisive role belongs to the Soviet Union, which contributed to the adoption of 1960s UN Declaration on the granting independence to colonial countries and peoples. Of course, an important role in this struggle was also played by Cuba, which today is an active actor in the system of Global South. Over the past few decades, South Africa has been the leader in the fight for economic independence. It was here that the transition to a multiracial society occurred as a result of the fight against apartheid. The modern period of South African development is characterized by the struggle for genuine independence, establishment of sovereignty, and overcoming economic problems. I must say that one of the most important achievements of South Africa is its active and truly equal participation in international affairs. Membership in BRICS is a clear example of this. Russia, I must say this is with absolute assurance that Russia is a South African most important ally in the context of the formation of a new multipolar world. So, a few words about the exhibition. It presents a collection of unique documents from state and private archives. It consists of 5 parts: military help, political, cultural, educational, and sports assistance. And more detailed information will be provided by the director of our African Center, Dr. Alexander Zotin, during his guided exhibition walkthrough. I take this opportunity to thank the organizers from the part of African National Congress, and special thanks go to Ms. Comrade Nombula Mukanyanen, the first Deputy Secretary General. Also, I'd like to thank Comrade Patrick Flusk, General Manager, Comrade Zalil Mbunelo, Head of the ANC Archives. And of course, I'd like to thank Comrade Wellesley Seal, International Relations Manager. Special thanks go to the Embassy of Russian Federation in South Africa. His Excellency, Mr. Ambarov, has provided really important support and assistance, and the members of his team, Polina and Anton, have been very, very structural and very supportive as well. I'd like to thank all the members of the group from the Russian State University for the Humanities, the director of the center, Alexander Zotin, then the deputy director, Dmitry Borisov, and of course we cannot omit the name of Daria Zelenova, who was the key initiator of this very special event. I'd like to end up with the famous quotation of a Russian philosopher and theologist, Bakhtin, who said once, "Dialogue is not always consensus. Dialogue may be the clash of opinions, but it's only in the dialogue that the truth is found." So I hope that this event, this launch event, and this exhibition will help us to find more truth about solidarity in struggle in South Africa. Wishing success to the event and to the exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Professor Zabotkina and the Russian State University for Humanities for partnering with us and for assisting us in keeping our history alive. It has to take responsibility by comrades who would always stand up to say the history must be told, and the history will only be told by those who know it. The history will be told by those who experienced it. Comrade Treasurer General, Comrade former National Chairperson, Your Excellencies, comrades and friends, it is now my singular honor and privilege to call upon the Ambassador of the Russian Federation of South Africa, His Excellency Ramon Ambarov, who is our partner in making this evening possible, to the podium to address us. Spasiba.
Спасибо. Dear Comrade Treasurer General, dear Comrade Zulu, dear comrades, Your Excellencies, professors, and esteemed guests, a very good evening. Добрый вечер. Спасибо, что нашли время и желание прийти. Well, it is indeed a great joy for me to see this wonderful exhibition finally be opened in the headquarters of the movement, which made South Africa free of discrimination and oppression, the African National Congress. Moscow's relations with ANC have a history of almost 100 years, you can imagine that. Its President Gumede came to USSR in November 1927. Since then, it was a story of true friendship. These bonds got especially strong during the dark years of apartheid, when the Soviet people extended a helping hand to the South African brothers and sisters. Moscow started supplying the ANC with arms, equipment, means of transport and communications, clothes and other goods needed to fight against the inhuman regime. But even more important was the exchange of skills and knowledge. At least 1,500 ANC activists were trained in a different way in Soviet military institutions, not military ones. Over 30 years, from the early 60s to 1991, on the basis of the approval from Moscow, which was the capital and the only decision maker of the Soviet Union. However, it was not our help that ultimately brought peace and justice to the land. It was the selflessness and dedication of hundreds of thousands of South Africans, Angolans, Mozambicans, Namibians, Tanzanians, Zimbabweans, and Cubans, many of whom had to pay with their lives. The least that we can do now to honor those heroes is to remember them and tell future generations of their deeds by carving their names into the monuments, movies, plays, history books, and exhibitions such as this one. As our President Putin has said on many occasions, preserving historical memory is more than just a tribute to the sacrifices of our peoples. It's a guarantee of our sovereignty and independence. Because if we stop reminding our children and ourselves of what our fathers and mothers achieved, someone else with insidious motives will rewrite history according to their interests. And lastly, on a more personal note, let me tell you that I was born and raised in the Soviet Union. And I can assure you that there was no single Soviet schoolboy or schoolgirl who would not know the name Nelson Mandela. There was not a single Soviet student who would not follow Amandla or Dawit. And there was not a single soul which would not be inspired by the courage and resilience of the members of the African National Congress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. You spoke about there was no single student who did know about Nelson Mandela. There was not a single student who didn't know what Amandla meant. May I also add that there were no workers who did not understand the struggles of workers in South Africa. And therefore, from one factory floor to the next, it's another history that still needs to be told. Myself here, standing here, and some of the comrades that were there, we used to go and dance in Lamu to some of those factories just to exhibit what South Africa is all about. That was the song that we sang, dressed in our traditional way of dressing, but also using that opportunity to mobilize for South Africa. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your expression, and definitely you are part of the people that have made today to happen, and that is possible because you were part and parcel of that solidarity that we so needed as students, as soldiers, by the way. The ambassador talks about people who went to do training and whatever, but those were real true soldiers. One of them is sitting here in front of me. He can tell lots of stories about that. It is important for us to remind ourselves of our strong bonds between our two countries, and especially the role that Russia played in the freedom of South Africa. And you eloquently spoke about the support that we received, and again, in our midst we have cadres that were training in the difficult camps of Angola. I can see Umzana sitting there. Those are the people that would tell the story how life was and what it is that we needed to do. in order for us to be part and parcel of ensuring that South Africa is free. South Africa enjoys its freedom today because among so many friends, we could always count on the Soviet Union. Now, it is my pleasure to then introduce now Professor Vladimir Shubin. Vladimir Shubin is a longtime friend and comrade of the African National Congress. We have the honor to watch a pre-recorded message from him, and I'm going to ask the technical people to please put him through. Thank you.
Dear comrades, this exhibition, organized by the Russian University of Humanities, with cooperation of several South African organizations, should remind us, both South Africans and Russians, about the contribution of our country into the support of the liberation struggle in Southern Africa. And while we are here, I believe we should not forget the names of the South Africans and Russians, Soviet Russians, who were contributing to this friendship. Of course, first of all, we should mention Oliver Tambo, whose visit in Moscow in April 1963 resumed the relations between Moscow and the African National Congress. I say resumed because these relations existed almost 100 years ago. We should mention, of course, Yusuf Dadu and Moses Kotana, who for the first time mentioned the need of liberation armed struggle. The list of these people are many. We should not forget also Moses Mabita, should not forget Chris Hani, Joe Slogan, and other leaders of the liberation struggle. On the Russian side, we should remember the rector of the Africa Institute and then ambassador to Zambia, Vasily Solodovnikov, and especially the person, Dr. and Ambassador Andrei Yuri Chernov, who was dealing with South Africa for about 25 years. We should remember also those people who were our military involved with MK in Angola, such as Comrade Ivan, that is legendary Vasily Sherev, and Comrade Michael, that's Mikhail Ivanovich Konovalenko, whom unfortunately we lost last year. I believe that we all, the best to keep their memory is to continue and develop the relation, friendship and cooperation between our two countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Has your microphones on? Что-то не работает здесь. Что-то не то. It's not working. I tried to turn it on. Yeah. Excuse me, I think we need another microphone, but if I have to wait because this is recording, so I need the microphone. Thank you. Спасибо большое, профессор Владимир Шубин. Между нами никто mna skazathi so ani TBS afsen iznayo mufsiyo TBS nayo. Now it is my singular honor to call upon Comrade Dan to come through to speak to us. Microphone is still not working. Hello? It's still not working. Ibatla charger. Or maybe it doesn't want me. It's not working. No, it's working. Well, it's not working, but when you hit it, it works. Yanis now, it needs an AK-47. I don't have, unfortunately. Or it needs vodka, maybe. Comrade Dan Hato has had the good fortune of studying and training in Russia, and I hope that he can take the opportunity to speak to everyone who is here and refer to that, but also to refer to the future. Thank you, Comrade Dan.
Thank you, Program Director, Comrade Lindy. Comrade Treasurer General of the ANC, Comrade Gwanda Mokgopa, the Ambassador of Russia, comrades at large. I'm not going to be long. All I've been asked to do here is to demonstrate the solidarity that was given to us by the people of Russia. Firstly, I need to do the honorable thing and say, long live the people of Russia, long live. Long live, long live the people of Russia, long live. Long live. Amanda. Thank you, comrades. Thank you. Comrades, we are gathered here today to say thanks to the people of Russia. As Comrade Lindy had said, some of us had the opportunity to go and get training in Russia. Comrade Lindy, I always tell comrades, whenever I get an opportunity to address such gatherings, that most of us, especially cadres of the African National Congress and soldiers of Umkhonto weSizwe, we need to be grateful for the education that was given to us by the African National Congress through the people of the Soviet Union by then, the Russian Federation today. Even though I went to Russia by chance, I had gone to Zambia after getting arrested in Botswana, deported to Zambia. And unfortunately, at that time, the government of Russia had offered an intelligence course in Moscow. That's how we found ourselves in Moscow with the likes of Comrade James Ngulu, Comrade Robert, who was stationed in the United Kingdom. And it is in that flat where we're being trained by Comrade Vladimir, who was a Russian intelligence officer, as to how to detect an enemy agent. So I'm giving this profile to illustrate what the Russian people have done for the people of South Africa. Comrade Shubin had mentioned here, Comrade Ivan. When I was a commander in Vienna, we became close friends with Comrade Ivan because some of the comrades who had to be trained and being prepared to come back and fight at home were stationed in Vienna. I can mention the likes of the late Comrade Ligwa Mdlankomo, who was killed in the raid in Lesotho. I can mention the likes of Comrade Lindamti, and quite a number of other comrades were trained by Comrade Ivan, who sacrificed leaving his family behind to come and part this knowledge for us to be able to fight the apartheid regime. He would drive all the way from Luanda to Vienna to pick up the comrades because the training venue was in Luanda, and they would come back to the camp around 5. I remember at one point, Comrade Ligwa, a very stubborn comrade, when they came back on that day, it was very late. The comrades who were working at the kitchen had finished cooking, they had washed the pots, and they had done one thing: they forgot to dish for them. We had to go and wake up our logistics officer and the kitchen staff, because all Comrade Ligwa was concerned about, he wanted his share. And that share to be given to Comrade Ligwa. Comrade TJ, I'm bringing in these anecdotes because we don't talk about what we've done with people who sacrificed not only their families, but sacrificed their lives for us to be where we are today. It is my hope that this is the beginning of compiling and bringing together that information for our children, so that in future it should be part of our curriculum. I must say, Comrade TG, that it is a shame today that our kids don't even know who Nelson Mandela is. When the children of Russia can tell you about Nelson Mandela, when children of Tanzania can tell you about June 16, it is part of what they are taught in schools. So, ladies and gentlemen, comrades and friends, the people of Russia, some of us who were there, know very well the sacrifices that they did. Comrade Lindy and some of the comrades who are here would tell you that the uniforms we were wearing were uniforms from Russia, were uniforms from Cuba. The boots that we were wearing were boots from Cuba, were boots from Russia, even though some of us, we would undermine some of the boots, we called them paus. And a pau is a bread from Angola. I don't know why we call them paus. Because some of the boots, when you wear them for a long time, you are bound to get blisters. So we used to check which one do we want, you know. And if you are unfortunate, you would get the pau, and you know that you are in trouble. But despite that, comrades, you know, these comrades were with us in trenches. I mean, some of the Russian comrades were with us in Malanje. Some of these comrades were with us in our camps. Some of these comrades prepared units that came to fight inside the country. And those units did wonders. Those units did wonders in the fight against apartheid. So, Comrade TG, this is not a mean feat. This is not a small thing that is happening today. It is historical. We need to take note and take care of this heritage. We need to make sure that memorialization of all these things that we're talking about here does happen. It is unfortunate that the department that is supposed to be assisting the military veterans of this country have no clear understanding as to the importance of this heritage. as I'm sitting down, I can't stop in telling this story. It's a laughable story, comrades and friends. But it signifies the fact that when we left Luanda going to Russia, some of us had bare minimums in terms of clothing. And the government of Russia would buy clothing for us. The flat we were using for our training was near a small park. Of course, we would do our practicals at Gorky Park around Moscow. But there was this small park around our flat. And we were given these new clothes. And there was Dan in his new shoes, a jacket. I mean, you know, snow when it's melting, you know, it can be quite dangerous. And now taking a walk in this park with my hands in my pocket. And I don't know, I didn't miss a step, comrades. But that's why I explained that it was because of the snow. I found myself on my laurels. And as I stand up, I just wanted to check if there's no one around the park. Fortunately, the park was deserted. And I made a dash for the flat. So these are the issues, comrades, that probably, despite the fact that we had left our homes to go to foreign places, but there are these anecdotes that makes us to laugh at ourselves sometimes. I remember the ladies who used to cook for us. I'm coming into what Comrade Lindy was saying here and the ambassador, that people of Russia knew about Mandela, people of Russia knew about Amandla. Comrade Lindy added that the workers knew what they were supposed to do for the workers of South Africa. These ladies, they were diligently cleaning the flat for us. They were diligently cooking for us. And they would make sure when they knock off on Saturday around 1 o'clock that we have food for Saturday, we have food for Sunday. And we might take those as very insignificant, but it shows you the education that the government of Russia had given to its people, the meaning of solidarity, the meaning of internationalism. It is not by chance that South Africa today is looked at Russia, is looked by America, as an enemy of America. We have been in this for a long time during the time of O.R. Tambo. With those few words, I want to say thanks to the people of Russia, Ambassador, the people of South Africa. We'll always remember them. As we used to sing in the camps, Soviet people, lovely nation, here we are far from home. We shall need you, we shall love you for the things you have done for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So now the story comes out that the comrades who were doing their military training, somebody cooked for them. Hey, Tina, there was no one who cooked for us. I think no one cooked for us. We had to go buy the food, stand in the queues, get the food, come to our general kitchen with everyone, fight about the stoves in the kitchen. We cooked for ourselves, but that's the history that needs to be told. Thank you so much, Comrade Dan. And I think your expression and anecdotes might sound like anecdotes today, but they were real for us. That was the life that we led. But when all is said and done, Comrade Balega, Sis Balega, TG, Comrade Gwen, This for me is just the beginning of many to come. The African National Congress has got the program, which must also be supported also by government, and the support by government has got nothing to do with any of this GNU or anything of that sort. It's got everything to do with appreciating and understanding the history of how we got to be where we are today. I wish to thank you, Comrade, and again, sharing some laughable stories. I think if Netflix would get an interest, we like it or not, there's Netflix. And it's Netflix that's going to do it. But all I can say is that we must make sure that Netflix reflects what it is, not what Netflix wants to reflect. It is my singular honor and privilege now to call upon the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Comrade Gwen Ramokgopa, to address us. And Comrade Gwen, as elected as the Treasurer General of the ANC at the 55th National Conference in 2022, has also served in different capacities of government. And if I were to go through who she's been, where she's been, it will take the whole day. For those who care, just Google her, you will find her. Comrade TG, it's your chance now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director, Comrade Lindiwe Zulu. I would also like to appreciate the presence of former Deputy President of South Africa and former Chairperson of the African National Congress, Me Baleka Mbete, who is also the Chair and Convener of NALISA, the National Liberation Heritage Institute of South Africa, that is doing a lot of work and that needs also a support in line with the task or the program that we are here for. His Excellency, Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Russian Federation to the Republic of South Africa, Ambassador Roman Ambarov. It's a pleasure to meet you again. The National Coordinator of Umkhonto weSizwe Liberation War Veterans, Comrade Den Hato. Indeed, we used to say Russian people, lovely people, who looked after us far away from home. I also want to acknowledge the people who did the work, most of the work, the research and all that. The Vice Chancellor of the Russian State University for Humanities, Professor Vera Zabokina, as well as the Professor Vladimir Shubin, who have addressed us, Dr. Alexander Zotin, head of the Center for African Strategy in BRICS, of the Institute for African Studies, also Dr. Daria Zelenova, veteran of our liberation struggles, comrades and compatriots. Good evening. Dobry wieczór. Thank you. It is indeed a profound honor on behalf of the African National Congress to open this exhibition on the bonds between the African National Congress and the USSR, today's Russian Federation. I think the ambassador will also bear with us because we still have a very good relationship and fond memories of other member countries of USSR. But Russia remains one of the center and the fulcrum of the relationship with ourselves during the struggle for freedom. Indeed, from the dark days of apartheid, repression, and colonialism to the dawn of democracy and beyond. This exhibition journey is rooted in rigorous archival research curated by the Russian State University for the Humanities in partnership with our ANC Archives and Heritage Department. This occasion takes place at the backdrop of a very important month when we commemorate the profound contribution to our freedom, giants of our movement on whose shoulders we stand, and who also strengthened our relationship with the people of Russia. October month is a month which we celebrate the internationalist legacy of Comrade Oliver Reginald Tambo and also Comrade Albertina Sisulu, leaders of unparalleled moral clarity, and as well as the centenarian Comrade Dr. Tlouchulo, who also trained in Russia. He was part of the Luthuli detachment. This exhibition rightly spotlights that lineage with the personal documents, training certificates, and correspondence that weaves individual courage into our collective memory. And those of you who are here whose experiences have not been captured, we want to invite you to write, to tell the stories, and to share the pictures to enrich this collective memory. The ANC-USSR Russia story is not a tale that begins in 1960 and ends in 1994. It has a longer arc which goes back to the travels of the ANC President Josiah Gumede to the Soviet Union in 1927, which prefaced a century of engagement. This history would take a profound significance when apartheid became an official policy of the state in South Africa then, and was institutionalized after 1948. In the 1950s, faced with bannings, treason trials, and massacres, our movement grappled with the limits of non-violent protests and deputations. The Sharpeville massacre of the 21st of March 1960 was a turning point. It propelled our movement towards the armed struggle not as an abandonment of moral principle, but as a recognition that the apartheid state had forcefully closed peaceful avenues to justice. In December 1961, Umkhonto weSizwe, MK, was formed under the political leadership of the African National Congress, with very clear discipline and a strategic doctrine aimed at minimizing loss of life whilst intensifying the liberation struggle in all fronts, both inside the country and internationally, to isolate the apartheid regime and bring it to its knees. The ANC sought international support and, crucially, training for cadres to build a disciplined politico-military capability. It was in this context that relations with the Soviet Union deepened in the early 1960s. Vladimir Shubin, drawing on declassified Communist Party of Soviet Union records, recounts how discussions in Moscow with South African leaders, including Moses Kotane and Yusuf Dadoo in 1961, helped shape the support for training and the calibration use of armed struggle alongside mass political mobilization and the other pillars of our struggle. Soviet support for the ANC and allied movements in Southern Africa was not abstract. It was practical. It was sustained and often decisive. Military training and equipment for MK delivered directly or via socialist allies formed the backbone of MK's capabilities during key phases of the struggle. Contemporary sources attest that the Soviet bloc provided virtually all the military assistance received by the ANC, and that Cuban and East German instructors trained MK recruits in Angolan camps. In 1986, meeting in Moscow between General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev and the ANC President Oliver Tambo, joined by Comrade Thabo Mbeki, publicly affirmed that the USSR support for a united, democratic, and non-racial South Africa is unwavering. These encounters, documented in press statements and reported on by the media, were not mere photo opportunities. They fortified the ANC's international standing at a critical juncture. Beyond armed struggle, the Soviet Union and the socialist institutions more broadly offered scholarships, safe haven, logistics, and cultural exchange. Universities such as the People's Friendship University, Patrice Lumumba, played a significant role in educating exiled activists, part of a wider Soviet cultural and educational offensive towards the decolonizing world. This is a period, comrades, that those of us who were inside the country were very clearly inspired by this empowerment. And we actually had slogans like passing was a revolutionary task, because we knew that rebuilding the country would be more difficult and needed skills of those that also have progressive perspectives. This solidarity also had faces and names, as Comrade Hato has said. The exhibition includes personal archival materials of cadres such as Ronnie Castros, who trained in Odessa in the 1960s, and whose trajectory from underground operative to Minister of State in a democratic South Africa epitomizes the intertwined destinies of our movement. The liberation of South Africa cannot be decoupled from the regional struggles, Angola, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Mozambique, formed a theater in which Cold War intersected with African decolonization on these countries. The USSR and its allies supported the MPLA government in Angola and SWAPO in Namibia. Cuba's extraordinary internationalist deployment is now well documented. Nowhere is the regional pivot more debated than the 1987-1988 battle around Quito, Valley. There is broad recognition that the military confrontation pitting FAPLA and Cuban units with Soviet advisors against UNITA forces, backed by the SANDF, tilted the strategic balances, hastened the tripartite accord, and paved the way to Namibia's independence and ultimately South Africa's democratic breakthrough. South African History Online underscores the Quito Valley as a turning point. And even after this battle turned the tide against the colonizers, our cadres had to retreat to one country or the other outside the frontline states. I've been one of those privileged to have visited Kawaweta camps and also realized the Soviet Union support, even at that point. All that evidence shows that indeed Russia was with us against thick and thin. And that even when Uganda stood to say, under the circumstances, we will take the risk as a nation, we will protect and give home to the ANC cadres then, MK, under the threat of being attacked by South African regime at that time, that the Russians were there to support Uganda in that era of high risk to their nation. The USSR's material backing, diplomatic cover, and advisory presence were integral to sustaining those fronts until a political settlement became possible. The 1990s brought two linked processes: the end of the Cold War and South Africa's own negotiated transition. Our movement had always understood that armed struggle was a component, not the sum, of a broader political strategy aimed at achieving a democratic outcome. The ANC's 1992 policy document, Negotiations: A Strategic Perspective, explicitly reckoned with shifts in the global balance of forces, including changes in the Eastern Europe, and framed negotiations as a route to a non-racial democracy. Multi-party talks, including CODESA and others, culminated in South Africa's first democratic elections in April 1994. The Soviet Union itself had dissolved by then, but the political capital accumulated through decades of solidarity did not vanish with a red flag over Kremlin. It migrated into a new Russia-South Africa relationship built on recognition of that shared revolutionary past. Formal diplomatic ties between Russia, the Russian Federation, and South Africa were established in 1992, followed by high-level visits in the late 90s, led by President Nelson Mandela, who visited in 1999, and subsequently the 2006 Treaty of Friendship and Partnership, later ratified, signaled continuity through change. In 2010, cooperation widened through BRICS with joint declarations and economic diplomacy that reflected the multipolar vision many in our movement had advocated since the struggle. Yes, it is a historical fact that our relationship draws legitimacy from the sacrifices and solidarities forged in the fiery furnaces of the colonial anti-apartheid struggle. By assembling documents from Russian archives and the ANC archives, certificates, diplomas, personal files, photographs, we are enabling young South Africans to engage primary sources, assess multiple narratives, and understand that history is a contested terrain that demands continuous critical inquiry. 3 lessons stand out. Firstly, that solidarity is strategic and ethical. The USSR support was rooted in ideology and geopolitics, but also in a principled stance against colonialism and racism, as Russia and South African scholars have argued over decades. Secondly, around struggle having many pillars, the ANC's approach combines mass mobilization, underground organizational work, international isolation of apartheid, and the armed struggle, each reinforcing the other. Our archives, alongside works like Vladimir Shubin's ANC, A View from Moscow, show how external solidarity was always harnessed to a political strategy directed by the ANC. Thirdly, that history is multi-perspective. From the debates over Kwetukwen Valley to assessment of MK's operational footprint, the record invites careful study rather than simplistic triumphalism. South African History Online and peer-reviewed scholarships both caution that while symbolism matter, a sober reading of operations, negotiations, and outcomes gives future leaders the tools to navigate complexity. The beauty of this exhibition lies in the faces and the voices that animate the narrative. Comrade Oliver Tambo's words in Moscow in 1986, offering thanks to the Soviet people and affirming shared objectives of a united, democratic, and non-racial South Africa, carry the gravitas of a leader who held our movement together in exile with patience and strategic ingenuity. Comrade Ronnie Caswell's training records from Odessa that I've mentioned evoke the daily grind of mastering craft and discipline, the technicalities of engineering and intelligence work that kept our structures resilient under great pressure. Certificates and diplomas of cadres whose names may not have occupied headlines, like Comrade Abisai Mpete, Comrade Oliver Mabiza, Comrade Mzi Ngaye Wellington Kalipa, Comrade Andile Banyana. All these remind us that liberation is won by countless unsung heroes and heroines who never seek a podium, whose study, training, and modest bravery accumulate into historic change. These artifacts personalize what scholarly work and declassification documents, sometimes abstract, provide us. They bridge knowledge lacked and locked away in official archives and personal accounts of lived experiences in the battlefield. Our democratic foreign policy since 1994 has tried to balance these historic loyalties with constitutional values and global responsibility. South Africa's engagement with BRICS, expanded BRICS, including Russia, has been one expression of our belief in a more plural and rebalanced international order. Even as we insist on the primary and primacy of international law, human rights, and peaceful resolution of conflicts, analysis of South Africa's role in the BRICS, expanded BRICS or BRICS Plus as we refer to it, capture both the opportunities and the paradoxes of this path. It is in this context of continuity with change that we must endeavor to lift and transform this relationship beyond political rearms to economics, culture, and other areas. Ideas are important, but we must address the economic fortunes of our peoples, including the movements that shape the futures of these people. The program director reflected on this. The ANC extends its hand of friendship and mutual support and benefit to the Russian people as we work to sustain ourselves and drive the project of democratic change. The truth is that history neither absolves nor predetermines, it informs. Our gratitude for historic solidarity does not remove the imperative to think critically and act ethically in a complex world. The very archives we celebrate tonight carefully curated, translated, and contextualized, equip us to have much more sophisticated conversations about sovereignty, dignity, development, peace, and international collaboration and cooperation. Why does a traveling exhibition shown in Harare, Bulawayo, Dar es Salaam, Maputo, Cape Town, and now Johannesburg matter? Because public history democratizes memory. It takes materials of locked away information, amongst others in the Moscow vaults or ANC boxes, and sets them before school groups, students, veterans, and diplomats alike. It says, here are the records. Read them, argue with them, learn from them. That is how democracies deepen. It is fitting that this exhibition is here at Chief Albert Luthuli House, because Chief Albert Luthuli's own journey from Nobel laureate and apostle of non-violence to a leader navigating an agonizing turn to armed struggle after Sharpeville mirrors our movement's ethical wrestling and strategic evolution. Our archives show that the decision to form MK was not easy. It was a change in tactic necessitated by material conditions in the face of state brutality. Allow me to express on behalf of the African National Congress most sincere gratitude to the Russian State University for the Humanities and the Institute for African Studies of the Russian Academy of Sciences for their scholarship and partnership. Our ANC Archives and Heritage Department, which for many years was led by Mayor Baleka, for stewarding our records and making them accessible, and for sharing invaluable personal collections that humanize our history. And the role of our first DSG, Comrade Nomvula Mokonyana, in this context is also acknowledged. The curatorial team, Dr. Alexander Zotin and Dr. Daria Zelenova, who will guide us through the exhibition after this session, the veterans and families whose documents are memories that deeply bring the story alive. And as we conclude, the ANC's relationship with the USSR and with Russia today is a thread in a larger tapestry that includes Cuba, the Nordic countries, the frontline states, the broader non-aligned world, and millions who marched, boycotted, divested, and prayed for our freedom. Scholars will continue to debate proportions and motives. Such debate is healthy. But the bedrock truth documented in archives from Johannesburg to Moscow is that without the solidarity represented in these archives, our road to 1994 would have been longer and darker, without which our road to 1994 would have been longer and darker. Remember that history is not only about what happened, it is about what we do now with the inheritance of struggle and friendship. As we celebrate the 70th anniversary of the Freedom Charter and focusing on the people shall govern and the people shall share in the wealth of the country, we know that it is not yet Uhuru, that we must continue to fight for what many have sacrificed so much for, and many more have even paid the ultimate price. To paraphrase one of our movement's most enduring convictions, we say aluda continua. Russia, I was at the Russian Embassy Victory Day, celebrating the 80th anniversary of the Soviet victory. We were also presented a film that dramatized post-war and social reconstruction and national healing, the name of which is Five Brides. Very interesting, very light, but indeed putting humanity at the center of the end of conflict, of war. Our relationship with the USSR, our relationship with now Russia, let it be a relationship that continuously is prepared to fight for peace, to fight for justice, to uphold the right of every human being to their human dignity, and also to advance towards a more shared prosperity in the world. This year, as we celebrate the 100 years of the relationship with the people of Russia, we also celebrate a centenary with one of our cadres trained in Russia, Dr. Chulo, who also we've also seen a musical, The Fatherland, released celebrating his life. These and many other exhibitions telling the story of the past, may they inspire us to indeed shape our futures for generations to come. We should carry forward the best of what this exhibition celebrates: a disciplined organization, a principled alliance, and an unwavering commitment to human dignity. Let's defend the peace that we're prepared to die for. I declare this exhibition open. Amandla.
Malibongwe. Malibongwe. May the flowers of the revolution raise their hands in the room. May the flowers of the revolution raise their hands, yes. I saw some other kind of flowers of the revolution, yes. That is what the women of Umkhonto weSizwe were called in the different camps where some of us were in Angola. We were called the flowers of revolution, because even under very difficult circumstances, there was something that we needed to bring in to stabilize ourselves, because the environment was extremely difficult for us. Spasiba Balshoy, TG, thank you very much for that presentation, and I think I take from you also to say that you said write and tell the stories and enrich the memories, and that will only be done by ourselves. And also to the ambassador of Russia to say to you, it's been a long time coming for the people of South Africa. For me, it's never too late. It's time for us to look at who is alive, who is available, who is there to tell the story, and it's never too late. I also take from you something very interesting about passing at the time when we were doing our studies. Completion, passing and completing was a revolutionary task, and among us here I see all those who completed because they understood that it was a revolutionary task to pass. And maybe I can say, Sis Balega, remind us that some of us who were very young in Mozambique, in Angola, in Mozambique and in Zambia and in Tanzania in particular, We were requested by the African National Congress to go to school because we had to choose either to go to school or go to Umkhonto Wesizwe. And the African National Congress was very clear about one thing. Those who were very young, too young to go to Angola or any kind of military training, the ANC never wanted child soldiers. The ANC wanted people who would go to do their military training because they understand. But I can tell you, many did not like the idea of going to school because they all wanted to go and train and come back and deal with the enemy in South Africa. That's part of the stories that we need to tell. And TG, you said something very profound, that the faces and the voices must be heard. We were very busy trying to put South Africa together pre-1994, 94, writing the constitution. We forgot about other things, part of writing the history, because we were very focused on ensuring that the people of South Africa see the benefit. It is now my honor and privilege to invite Dr. Alexander Zotin and Dr. Darius Zelenova to take us through the tour. And I request that everyone remain standing. I know that people have been standing for long, but according to the program, we've tried to stick to the time. Dr. Alexander Zotin is the head of the Center for African Studies of the Russian State University for Humanities, while Dr. Daria Zelenova is head of the Center for African Strategy in BRICS of the Institute of African Studies of the Russian Academy of Sciences and an expert of the Center for African Studies of the Russian State University. And may I ask that while the one explains here from the podium, the other will be showing us the panel of exhibition. Over to you, Spasiba.
Thank you so much. I think that it's a bit cumbersome to make a guided tour first, so a short introduction to it. So, dear hosts and guests, it's my pleasure and privilege to be here in Lutuli House with comrades from African National Congress and Russians. It's especially a pleasure because, some of the speakers mentioned harsh Russian weather, and right now in Moscow we are waiting for the first snow. But here in Johannesburg, in South Africa, we are in the midst of spring and flowering, so it's a special pleasure. So the exhibition that we are proudly presenting today was launched for the first time in Robben Island, at the Robben Island Museum. So, it's a sacred place for every South African citizen, and not even for them, I think, for all the humanity. It's absolutely sacred place. So it was a collaboration with Russian State University for the Humanities and Robben Island Museum, and also we, with support of our friends of Cuba Society in South Africa. They helped us very much. I would like also to thank ANC Archives for the materials which enriched this exhibition. So this exhibition celebrates the solidarity in struggle against apartheid and against colonialism of USSR, Russia, and African liberation movements. I think it's very important to notice that this theme is underrepresented in here because, in apartheid museum, no mention of a Russian role in African liberation, in liberation, in struggle against apartheid. So it's important to restore this historical memory. And I'll conclude my speech with some, philosophical and historical remarks. So I think that history is not predetermined, and the victory of the oppressed against the oppressors also is not predetermined. Right now, it's not only about history, it's about contemporary events. And right now we are witnessing the tragedy of Gaza, the tragedy of Palestine. And it is also a possible historical outcome. Very sad outcome, but the outcome of Gaza conflict is not clear. Maybe it's total extermination. I don't know. So it's not only about history. It's about our life and contemporary events. And I think that the collapse of apartheid regime was not inevitable. It was not predetermined. And apartheid was brought down by heroes sitting here. Mostly these heroes are from African states, from ANC, but also heroes from Russia, from Soviet Union, from Cuba. So we dedicate this exhibition to these heroes. Thank you very much. And Dr. Daria Zelenova will tell you more about the content of our exhibition.
Thank you, Dr. Alexander Zotin, dear esteemed guests, dear comrades. It's an honor, it's a pleasure to be here with you today and to present this work that is a joint collaborative work of preserving our joint history. I will speak very briefly about the idea of the exhibition, which was to trace the history of solidarity between our countries and peoples. With this aim, the Russian State University for the Humanities, a leading university of Russia specializing in humanities, took the initiative of creating an archival exhibition covering the role of the USSR in Africa's liberation from colonialism and apartheid. To this end, we approached various parties, including African studies scholars, such as Prof. Schuben and many others. We approached Russian veterans who worked alongside Cubans in Angola and Mozambique. We approached MK veterans requesting for their help with the content of the exhibition. First installations were held in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and in Tanzania. Then the exhibition was extended to cover the traces of the solidarity of the USSR and Cuba with the liberation movement in the region of Southern Africa. This included the ANC, the MPLA in Angola, the ZAPU in Zimbabwe, SWAPO in Namibia, and Frelimo in Mozambique. And it's a great honor that finally this exhibition has arrived to Johannesburg, to Luthuli House. This exhibition was eventually the result of a joint effort by many people who worked together on the content. The material presented is very rich and comprises archival sources obtained from various Russian state and private archives, as well as oral history interviews with former anti-apartheid struggle veterans, and some media clippings from the TASS Soviet Press Agency. The exhibition is built around several main themes. The first one is solidarity at political and military levels. The second one, cooperation in education, culture, and sports. And a unique topic covered for the first time in this exhibition is people-to-people solidarity. We have traced the unique history of Soviet school children's anti-apartheid solidarity efforts, as depicted in various sources, photographs, press clippings, and oral history interviews. This exhibition's mission is to preserve the historical memory of human solidarity and internationalism between our peoples. We believe that our shared past embodies shared values of justice, freedom, and human dignity for all. Thank you.
Spasiba. Thank you very much, Dr. Zotin and Zelenova. We thank you for giving us a very brief history of how this whole process started and the joint collaboration, and thank you for tracing the history of solidarity. And I think it's important for us to appreciate in particular the fact that that solidarity involved Cuba, the Cuban people were always there. It involved a whole lot of other progressive peoples of Latin America in particular. And that history, particularly of the participation of the Cubans in Angola in particular, it's a history that still needs to be told. I also do want to indicate that at this very moment, we are, as the African National Congress, working very, very closely with the liberation movements, MPLA, Frelimo, ZANU-PF, Chama Pinduzi. It's not long ago we had a summit of the liberation movements, and the purpose for that summit is to continue to share amongst each other how are we managing ourselves as governing or ruling parties, if you like to say, but how are we also responding to the needs of our people in different areas. It's a journey, but it's a journey that needs to be shortened for the people in terms of ensuring that our people appreciate what we have been able to do. I wish to thank you also for ensuring that the history of the liberation movement and the solidarity is captured not only for yesterday, today, but also for tomorrow. And the majority of young people who form the bulk of our people today, this is the time for us to enable them to understand that history. And hopefully this exhibition will not only end up here, it's an exhibition that will be able to go to different places where our ordinary people can also be able to appreciate it. We wish at this point in time to also thank the Embassy of the Russian Federation under the leadership of His Excellency, Ambassador and our comrade and brother Ramov Ambarov, for this evening and for all their hard work in facilitating better people-to-people relations between South Africa and the Russian Federation, as well as to ensure that our common history is kept alive. Ambassador, I know that not only are we here today, I do want to say that there's a lot of other activities that the embassy embarks upon, and it will be important for us to get the necessary information and be visible and be seen to some of the evenings which also involve the culture, the appreciation of both the Soviet Union past but Russia today. But also I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Comrade Treasurer General, for attending this evening and for addressing us and giving us a very comprehensive background and history and knowledge of this history. We also thank the leadership of the Veterans League Umkhonto Wesizwe, Liberation War Veterans, and all the leaders of our leagues, both the Youth League, Youth League bakhona abobani sifuna ukwazi sifuna ukubabona sifuna ukuphakamisa izandla mabangekho sohamba siyobakhipha la bekhona, because this that we are doing here today is not only for ourselves. We've done what we needed to do and we are proud of what we were able to do. Siyacela nje ukuthi i-Youth League ibe yiyo that takes this baton and move on with it. Also in particular, we would like to thank Comrade Balegambete, and I must indicate that my recollection also in terms of the archives, in terms of the liberation history, Sis Balega was among those members of the National Executive Committee who really wanted to see this happening. I remember Sis Balega, one time we even went to Eswatini, tracing the journey, and we are still to go to Mozambique, we're still to go to Tanzania, we're still to go to every other place to carry this history. We wish to thank you for taking time to join us today. And I'm also hoping that the younger generation, now, today is social media. Today, social media and from where I sit, I know that many of you comrades don't want to find yourselves in that space, but that's where the young people are, like it or not, and they want to hear these stories. So please give them time and talk to them so that they can then be able to share what we are sharing here amongst ourselves. I also want to thank the veterans, all the veterans who are here today, those veterans who are from Umkhonto weSizwe, but Konama veterans who are veterans because they joined the liberation struggle a long time ago. They never had the chance to go to Angola and do the military training, but believe me, there is no difference among us in terms of our contribution to the liberation struggle. So for all the comrades who took their time to come here today, we wish to thank you, and may you be also available, because once this has been launched, there will be a lot of requests from other people who want to hear the live stories. And of course, I must say, if we protect the information that goes there so that ikusasa ingasetshenziswa against us. You know, when things are done in hindsight, it's reflected in a different way. The other day, cadres of Umkhonto weSizwe, the women, I was asked about the question of all kinds of things that happen in the camps, and I was like, I don't know which camps they are talking about. They must come to us and ask us. We will tell them the truth. They must not talk about us without us who were there. We know exactly what happened. And I'd like to thank all other members of the Diplomatic Corps and honorable guests and comrades and friends for your presence here tonight. And I want to do a special thanks to the ANC-DCIP, the Department of Communication, Information and Publicity, Department of Information and Propaganda. Yazi nje ukuthi bayibulala lento leyo for a reason. Bathi singathi propaganda, kodwa bona bayisebenzisa iloku propaganda for themselves. Comrade Mangaliso and your team and everyone who's ensured that this evening is a success today. We wish to sincerely thank everyone that joined us today. I know it's in the evening. It's important that we be present, and it's important that you continue to tell the story. Now, if there isn't anything else that I'm supposed to announce, I wish to thank you, African National Congress, for giving me the opportunity to the program director. As I indicated earlier on, Comrade Nomvula Mokonyane, who is the DSG-1, is in Tanzania as we speak. She was supposed to be the one program directing today, but duty called. She is in Dar es Salaam today, and we're wishing them a very good work while they are there. We thank you most sincerely for joining us this evening, and we would like to invite you to a finger dinner, sorry, at the foyer. Amandla, Amandla. Long live the spirit of all the comrades who, from somewhere, they watch us and they hope they wish we could do better, Sis Balega, and I do believe that we can be able to do better. Aluta. Thank you very much. Spasiba balshoy.